Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators.
Hi.
The show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms.
Hi.
If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
I'm Ari.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Trevor.
Trevor's phoning in.
Hi.
Today,
Hi.
we're going to be going over Harrison Bergeron by Kurt Vonnegut. And Trevor, you have a discussion starter?
The discussion
Bless you.
starter is one that I think reflects not just the story, but almost all of us. Actually two discussion starters. One relating to the story and one relating to outside world. The first one for the story is: do you think that handicapper general in this story had an inferiority complex? One, and two, what exactly is equality, and is it possible to strive to be better?
There's no such thing as true equality. Forced equality is impossible to achieve.
How are you going to enforce it?
As far as for its face value is concerned.
Right.
People have the equal opportunity to, or should have the equal opportunity to obtain satisfaction. But that's an intuitive term. And it is not the government's place to tell you yes or no. In this case, this handicapper general is trying to force it upon people. This handicapper general is pretty much a representation of the establishment.
Trevor, I don't know how much you know about Kurt Vonnegut. That's his name?
Vonnegut.
Kurt Vonnegut himself, where he comes from, but I have a feeling that if I met this guy in person, I would not like him. This story, from what I read and what you told me, Trevor, and what we discussed a couple hours ago, this makes me angry. I didn't want to say this earlier because I didn't want to ruin my emotions for this episode.
This work is supposed to make people angry.
No, but it didn't just make me angry. I was reading the synopsis. You told me to read the story. I couldn't because I knew I would just get so frustrated at reading the story.
It does make you frustrated, and it's supposed to make you frustrated.
I know.
And it's written very absurdly, but at the same time, he's getting to the point that
it's nothing against him. No.
He's getting to the point. Authorities, their priority is to assert control on other people. Rulers, their purpose in life is to assert their dominance and to control as many people as possible, and they do not want people to leave their control.
Or challenge it.
And that's the exact thing that I was going to bring up, that I have learned, and you've got to pardon me because I'm just really livid right now. What I have learned in the last year, we're filming this in August to give you an idea. I am just learned in the last year that to control somebody's likes, dislikes, I'm not going to say that I haven't done it, because I have. And I know I have. But I always try to strive to be the best person I can, and I realize that sometimes I do things that, I'm like, hey, you're doing something wrong. I'm starting to realize now it's not right or wrong. It's just what people do, and, I can't change them, and if I don't like them, I don't have to associate myself with them. I think everybody has that desire to control as much of their circumstance as possible. Right,
but there are things that you are not able to control, and there's things that you should not need to control.
Do you know my brother always says? My brother says a very important thing every time I get mad at somebody. And I have to talk to him. I'll get mad at my parents and I'll talk to him. He will always say, you can only control you cannot control anything that is not, that you get angry at.
Right.
Anything that you are going to get angry at, you are not going to be able to control. There's no, what would be the purpose of getting angry at yourself, unless it's something like, oh, I messed this up. I get that, but, that's not really anger, that's more self-frustration.
But self-reflecting.
Yeah.
Self-reflection.
Maybe I could have done this better.
If someone is doing something that's, going to make you angry, it's not in your control.
Right.
They are going to be the ones at fault. They're the ones that are doing whatever's bothering you. Just don't associate yourself. So then when I read something or look at something like this, it just absolutely it's mind boggling.
I want to take
I'm not trying to be difficult.
I'm going to take a few steps back because I want to lay out to the general. I just want to send a reminder to what the story is about.
Yeah.
The story follows Harrison's parents. Their names are Hazel and George.
Right.
Hazel is, and I quote, perfectly average intelligence, which meant she couldn't think about anything except in short bursts. George, and I quote, while his intelligence was way above normal, had a little mental handicap radio in his ear, as people did in that dystopia. He was required by law to wear it at all times. It was tuned to a government transmitter. Every 20 seconds or so, the transmitter would send out some sharp noise to keep people like George from taking unfair advantage of their brains.
Unfair.
So they would not let people think in this dystopia. They wanted people not just to be physically controlled, not just mentally controlled, but they wanted people to know that the government was in charge, and you had nothing to say about it.
There's no such thing as EEOC. There's no such thing as...
What's EEOC?
That's equal employment opportunity, which is, I'm just saying in general. The government is supposed to help you, not control you.
This is their way of help. Their way of help is control.
No, this isn't even help.
It's not.
That's what their definition of help is.
Right, and this goes back to the point.
Control free.
And let's go to Harrison now. Harrison was taken away and imprisoned by H.G. Men.
Mm-hmm.
And he, in particular, he was imprisoned because, and I quote, he was held on suspicion of plotting to overthrow the government, which Stalin used that term, enemy of the people.
Right.
But it was more so...
That's why this is similar to 1984.
There was no enemy of the people in Russia. It was an enemy, it was an interference of Stalin's authority.
Right.
If you, in Stalin's Russia, if you posed any threat to his reign, then you needed to be either sent to a gulag or killed.
Right. And unfortunately, there are a lot of places in power that work like that.
Mm-hmm. Many people.
And to continue, he is I quote, he is a genius and an athlete, is under-handicapped, and should be regarded as extremely dangerous. He was exactly 7 feet tall. And they didn't want him to just be weaker, but also look the part, where they made him not just wear the transmitters, he had to wear headphones, he wore glasses to interfere with his vision, he wore a red clown nose just to make him look ridiculous.
Because he was told to.
Yes, and then he had to wear things in his teeth so he didn't look... When he took all of it off, when he escaped, he looked like and I quote, he would have awed Thor, the god of thunder. Yeah. And he picked one of the ballerinas to be his empress, which they're talking about face masks. They're wearing all of these appendages, including the transmitters. It's written as an absurdist work, and I think that a lot of things are allegorically depicted. So
it just really got
not only, and I quote, I'm going to quote again because I think
keep quoting. I'm like,
not only were the laws of the land abandoned, but the law of gravity and the laws of motion as well. So he was doing these spectacular things, which to me mirrors when a leader goes against the establishment, which I think two names that I think of in particular are
Stalin and Hitler.
No, not that's negative. They went against the common grain for that's fascism. Two very contrasting people that are not often compared with one another, John F. Kennedy and Donald Trump. They go against their establishment to the point that the establishment does not like it, and they want to engage in manipulation tactics and other practices to not just turn people away from the person like the Harrison Bergeron or Kennedy or Trump, but they want to destroy them that way, be it through media or through actions within, and then ultimately, with someone like Kennedy, they ultimately off him.
And if I may, I was going to say, it gets to that point where some people, they say, and I'm just going to say, this is a very realistic thing that can happen. As soon as I read the first two sentences, I put this is practically Nazism at its finest. The control freaks.
I loved how
control freaks.
I loved how you annotated that.
Control freaks.
I wanna.
That's what they are. Now,
control freaks.
If you can read that.
It's not really the actual people themselves. I think it's the partisan stuff
Yes.
that's going on right now. It's more the. I don't want to offend anyone else. I don't want to say that someone is at fault for this one. It's probably more the system.
And that's what I wanted to say too. But
I could be wrong.
No.
But I think
what I was going to say. I'm sorry. What I was going to say real quick, and trying to keep it quick, is unfortunately you're going to have that person who has been kicked around so much, and he's going to maybe be an ex-Navy SEAL, no home, wife left him, did everything they had to do. They go see the motorcade, which now is a lot, and it doesn't have to be a president. It could be a public official, one who said the states usually. You have the feds, and then the states rule accordingly. You could have somebody easily get picked off because no matter how tight your security team is, depending on who that person is, they may have the training, they may have the skills to say that's the decoy, that's the real person. Or their ambassador, their team. An eye for an eye. I lost my home, I lost my wife, I have no money. The little money I had, I bought this, and we don't need to go any further than that. That's what happens. And they're crucified as like, why would they do such a horrible thing? It comes to the motive. Did they do that to feed the family? Did they do that to become a terrorist? I'm not defending anybody. I'm not condemning anybody. I have no say.
Did you want to say anything, Trevor?
Yeah, Trevor, I was gonna.
And I want a cookie, please.
Trevor, since you came up with this story, I'm curious what you have to say about it.
I just, from what I've seen in this story, it almost is like the handicapper general has a severe inferiority complex.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that before.
Yeah.
When I was looking this up earlier today, I came across a phrase called crab theory, or basically like crabs in a bucket.
Crab theory.
Crab theory, yeah.
Thinking it's basically like if one person can't have it, neither can the rest of the group. Believe me when I say that handicapper general is a real crab.
Trevor, I want to ask you two questions.
All yours.
The first question is, wouldn't you agree that about a year ago that I acted like a crab in certain situations, and would you also agree that I no longer act like a crab anymore?
Click.
I can't really say one way or the other whether you were like a crab a year ago, but now I will say definitely it's confirmed you are not a crab.
I was earlier. I really was, and I learned. I know. I appreciate you not saying it, Trevor, but it is true. I definitely was very, very much what's the word? Vindictive of people around this time last year, and I just realized, surrounding myself with positive people really helped me drop that. So when I was told about this story and Josh brought it up and and when I found out what it was about, I didn't want to read it because it was bringing back like trauma. I didn't want to deal with that anymore.
Apologies, I didn't mean to.
And no, I mean I read the entries and stuff about it, and I listened to what you had to say about it, and it's an interesting story. I will not take that away from it. It is an interesting story. It's very much 1984. It's just it's tweaked differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's that slight tweak that bothers me a little bit. Do I think that this story should be presented to audiences? Yes. Should the audiences be a little bit younger? I think so. I think we are in our late 20s, early 30s. Some of us are in our 40s. and we kind of already have been through the experience, so we can review it in a way, but I think this is most important for high schools.
I can agree.
Or maybe colleges.
I agree, and I think that this is a work that people should be reading, whether or not the schools are going to hopefully it does pass through the schools, because I think this really gives
I'd read
this
it if
gives
it didn't give me
people the tools that they need, and they need to apply it objectively.
Yeah.
They need to be able to look at it knowing that there are a great many deal of authorities that care more about us being obedient than opportunistic.
Yeah.
They care about what's good for them.
Yeah, that's everybody.
What's going to line their pockets? What's gonna buy the missus a nice new fur coat? What's gonna buy I mean, again, I don't mean to digress.
No, you're making a good point.
This was the copyright on this is 1961.
Yeah, that's a pretty well ahead of its time.
Yeah, you even mentioned Kennedy. This is before. Well,
Kennedy was
right
president.
around, yeah, he was president during this time.
I think as humanity, we take 10 steps forward, but we take 5 steps forward, but we take 10 back.
Forward and
2
steps back.
We take 5 steps forward, 10 back. We take 20 steps forward, we take 10 back. Am I saying that to be a P-R-I-C-K? No, I'm not. I'm saying that because that's kind of what we're doing. All of us? No, but most of us.
Where you apply the dance between Harrison Bergeron and the Empress is reflective of choices that people like Kennedy and Trump made.
And anybody else, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, but in particular Kennedy and Trump, because they went against what the establishment wanted. With Kennedy, he wanted to pull people out of Vietnam. He wanted to take people out, but after the assassination and Johnson came in, he was part of the establishment, and he wanted more people.
Josh, I just want to mention that at the end of this book, which you have not mentioned yet, so I just wanted to...
Story?
Yeah, the story. Excuse me. At the end of the story, Harrison Bergeron actually gets killed by this... what's the name of the...
Clampers.
Clampers, yeah.
The handicapper general.
Handicapper general, that's right.
With a... what is it now?
Why do we have to kill someone like that? Like, just because they're not being obedient. That is the exact sign of a power-crazed government.
Because they're a threat to the establishment.
Yeah.
Right.
And by doing...
Exactly, but that's... sorry.
No, you're fine.
You know what I'm trying to say, though.
Yeah. The way that it's done, it's a bit more absurdist, because in a real-life situation, it would be one of the HD people that would have fired the machine gun.
Right.
And... or a sniper that couldn't be seen.
Right.
Lampers would have probably, if anything, just stormed onto the stage and say, "Everybody put your things back on. You have 10 seconds to do so, or you're going to." That would have been her role. But I think the fact that she did it herself is a depiction of the
It's a much
threat.
more serious thing.
And I think, as Trevor said, an inferiority complex, because the handicapper general and the establishment of this piece is threatened by somebody removing them from their position of authority and the control that they have.
And I wanted to say exactly what we were talking about, but it's also, they're doing it also to set an example, induce fear into, like, well, we better put our headgear back on or nonsense like that. I mean, that's, again, inexcusable. You don't go in there, nobody goes into a building or whatever and does something like that. But that's another reason why it may have been done.
But we know why
Yeah.
she did it. And that why is exactly what needs to be avoided.
Exactly.
And that requires us to come to our own conclusions and not let other areas...
Peter Yarrow once sang a very big, important song. Don't ever take away our freedom. And this is what happens when you take it away.
And we're seeing a lot of that. I'll just put it to you that way.
Yep.
And not just in the story.
And the way that it ends is the parents
they forget.
They forget what happened.
Yeah.
I couldn't. That's part of the reason it traumatized me was because they didn't have to do that. They really did. Kurt Vonnegut did not have to do that, and that really.
That's what when they see something.
But, for me,
it's either you. It's that sense of.
It's the fear of abandonment for me. It's nothing to do with the work.
Should you dwell on something that is only going to bog you down and hurt you more? That's the way they're approaching it. It is supposed to infuriate because it's supposed to get you, the reader, to get up and do something.
Exactly.
Right. I know, but I'm just saying for me, when it's actually trauma, like fear of abandonment, I can't actually get up and do
It
it.
It is very.
See,
the fact that
there's
they,
like a certain, you can go far, but you can't go too far.
Right.
I think Kurt goes a little too far. It's not like 1984, which I think was perfect. This just felt a little too much for me. But that's just personal for me.
I think it was very extreme, but that's what it was supposed to be. Any final thoughts?
Frustrating, but it was a good work. And I kind of, I don't know if this made it in earlier, but I did say earlier that this is the type of work that is it's really good, but for me, I only have the power to read or watch it once.
Right.
And there are actually a lot of works that I feel fall into this category. Schindler's List is a good example. I can't read that again, but it was so good, it was so powerful, that I felt very strongly by it. This is a short story where I felt it was very hard, and it's a topic that's difficult and it's traumatizing for me, but
I think there are those things that that when it comes to
but they're important.
Yeah, I agree, because something like the movie Coming Home, which has to do with the war in Vietnam, that's something that I'm going to be pushing myself to watch again. I think works like these, I've read this more than once to prepare and come up with the clearest and most thorough notes. But I think that my final thought about this is that it really gives the reader that great sense of thinking and the ability to develop and build on your thoughts is important, and it's something that that nobody should ever be able to take away from you, and that if anybody tries, those people are not qualified to lead.
Right. And they will not last.
And you need to stop them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's, I was about to build on that. My final thoughts, they would be stopped eventually, whether somebody taking the quote-unquote law to their own hands, whatever means necessary, let's put it that way.
Yes.
But this is supposed to, and there are other works out there, which we said earlier, this is supposed to get you to go like this with it, rip it up, but it's supposed to make you want to go out and do something about it, make a change.
I think a lot of people forget that, as per the Declaration of Independence, our government is supposed to serve us.
That's what I said earlier.
And
they're supposed to be helping us.
Yes, we elect them to serve us.
And we can throw them
they
out.
run, we do have and it's, if they are abusing their power,
It's happened.
then it is in our power to remove them.
And it's happened.
But there's this great sense of manipulation because where we are, the two-party system is trying to make the general population turn against one another. That's very similar to what happened in Stalinist Russia, where people would tattle on each other in order to, if they were somewhat an enemy of the people, because the authorities were trying to make them think that the enemies were among each other. Just like monsters are doing on Maple Street. Turn people against one another.
And that's exactly what they want. Thank you.
Trevor.
Yes?
Trevor, what do you have any final thoughts?
Is, to quote Aldous Huxley, paraphrasing Thomas Jefferson, or was it Ben Franklin, price of liberty, or even of common humanity, is eternal vigilance.
It strikes a bell. Pun not intended.
Ding, 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 ding.
It reminds me of the Benjamin Franklin quote. One that's willing to sacrifice a great deal of freedom for a little bit of safety deserves neither.
Exactly. And just one last thing, since you brought it up, I was going to bring it up, but you did. That kid is going to be bullied in middle school and high school, and it's the truth, because they're going to tell on others, and that's what they're being taught. Yeah. And again, this may be now, but that kid is more than likely going to be. And I'm saying I feel bad for the kid. I feel bad for the kid. He will be mincemeat by middle school.
Telling on people is that's not something that if somebody approaches you and you say something, that's one thing.
Right.
But to directly go to the authority and tell on them, that's not an individual train of thought.
You do not do that in prison.
That is you surrendering your thoughts to the authorities. But you don't do that because the prisoners are going to turn on you, and the authorities are going to do nothing about it.
Yeah,
I've been taught not to do that.
That just like that episode of The Simpsons where Homer goes to Princeton. If you were
holding this.
If you're interested in checking this out, you can Google it and find it immediately. But Trevor said it was in a short story collection of Vonnegut's.
It was originally published in the magazine of fantasy and science fiction.
Okay.
And then later on was republished in the author's own Welcome to the Monkey House.
Okay.
So that was Welcome to the Monkey House by Kurt Vonnegut Stories.
Yeah, that would probably be the best way to approach it because you would have to find an older copy of fantasy and science fiction, which would it could still be out there, but
Seems unlikely.
You'd have to go through the archives. But I'm subscribed to fantasy and science fiction, which they're actually based in Hoboken, New Jersey, and I've met the person that publishes it, Gordon Van Gelder. I think that Welcome to the Monkey House is the best way because that is a published entity and it's ongoing too, unless Fantasy and Science Fiction incorporated it into an anthology.
And I found this, obviously I found this online, www.tnellen.com/CYBE.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we don't need
I was guilty. I did I read it off a PDF. Alrighty then, be sure to join us next time on another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now,
Keep reading.
Keep reading.
And be a subscriber. Right, Trevor?
alrighty.
Hey everyone, this is Charlie. On next episode of Literary Gladiators, we're going to be discussing Lemony Snicket's The Composer is Dead. Dun dun dun! So, the panel will be Ari, Josh, myself, and Trevor. And it's going to be pretty riveting, so stick around. And also, please give us a like, share us on, on social media. And also, please, if you haven't already, consider, helping us out on Patreon, because what we get off that, we can give to you in return through, we're literary gladiators. We discuss and debate literature in all of its forms, as Josh would always say. So keep reading, and hope to see you soon. Thanks. Bye.